and then losing all the drawings to a ransomware attack will also be a
Yes, because what do we do if we have 6 months worth of work that we can't get back? What do we give to this client? We have to start over again. It's not like, well, we have backup service, but what if those are in ransomware? What do we do? We have to return our fees, and we just wasted 6 months of time, and we could be held liable again because
Yeah.
we're in breach of contract.
All right. Well, thank you, our viewers, for this is another, I think this is our 5th episode of this Eagle TED Talks. And I'm honored here to be with Andrea Lucas. She is a very, very, very successful architect, right?
Yes.
All right. So I'm going to let Andrea introduce herself and tell us a little bit about her firm. Tell us a little bit about the name of the company, Tectura. Tectura, like architecture, but in Spanish is Tectura, right?
Yeah.
All right.
So funny story. I always spoke Spanish and English in the house. I always got confused. Growing up, it was a bilingual, trilingual, even 4 languages in the household at some point. So it was easy to get very confused. Architecture has always been very interesting to me. I didn't know that this was going to be my career. But when it came to the point where I decided to hang my shingle, to open my doors and become a business owner, I had no idea what it was going to be called. I had to create an identity that wasn't myself. And the only thing that I could think of was I had to pay homage to my Latin roots while being here in the United States. So I took architecture, I gave it the Spanish name, Arquitectura, and changed things around so that I can create and design my own version of architecture, basically in a new image. And I didn't know what it was going to be at the time, but I'm excited about what we've created thus far and where we're going.
And well, let me ask you these questions. Were you one of those kids that play a lot with Lego when you were little, and then you realize I can make money doing this?
Funny. When we talk as architects amongst ourselves, that question comes up a lot. Did you play with Legos? That's how you knew you wanted to be an architect. Alas, no. I knew I loved art. And I always was interested in science. I was a nerd. I loved school. But I needed to find something that was both art and science. And when I found myself in high school with my AP art teacher, and I would spend all day long, every break, every recess, I would spend nights and complete days locked up in my own little studio at home doing art, I knew that that's where I wanted my career to be. And it wasn't until I actually was in college, still figuring it out, that I took an exam that ranked really highly in architecture, which surprised me. I gave it a go, and I loved the challenge. I really liked the ability to be able to problem solve and create something that was both artistic and functional. And then it just clicked. It just made sense to me that this was exactly what I was meant to do.
That's a new story. I heard the Lego story a lot. That's why I asked. But so tell us a little bit about the uniqueness of your business. Especially you are based out of DC, Virginia, Maryland.
I work in the DMV, so I work in all 3. At some point, I was taking jobs in South Carolina and Texas. I've been even playing with the idea of West Virginia because each state has its own set of rules and regulations. So it's a very intentional thing to open up your practice in another state. There's licensing requirements, not only as a business, but as a professional licensed architect. But I am based out of Virginia. I have strong roots in DC and Maryland, so that's my area of focus.
Focus right there. So in your business, yeah, I think if you go to your website, one of the main messages that you see there, your motto, it would be architecture for humans. Why is that? What is architecture for humans? What did you come up with that expression?
You know, this was, I think, just before the whole AI boom started, and we were self-reflecting on what we wanted to be as a practice. Again, you need a guiding principle. When you start a business, you're told to get your business plan together and get your mission, your values. What is your statement? What are you bringing to the world that makes you unique? And the most that I could think of, my passion really is for, I guess, a little bit of an anthropological aspect. I love people. I get into the weeds and I have to walk a mile in my clients' shoes to understand what their needs are. So even before AI was as big as it is now, we needed to focus on the individual person, which is the client, more so than the square footage and the programmatic requirements. I need a kitchen, 1 bath, 3 bedrooms. Those are lists that help us create something that follows a certain function. But at the end of the day, it is to be able to tailor what we are creating, something that is solid, something that is going to last for many, many years, decades, hopefully, something that gets passed on to your children. A building is hard to move, not impossible, but hard to move. So I'm going to say immovable. If we have to get it right the first time, I'm going to ask you, where do you like to sit and have your coffee? Where do you do your meditation? What is important to you? Are you going to is this the last house you're going to live in? And how can we make sure that your house isn't a detriment to you aging in place? Let's make sure that you love this place so much that you never want to leave. And again, pass it down to your children. Create generational wealth by having ownership. Ownership is one of the hardest things that we can do in this society. Owning your own home. Once you have that, then a huge financial burden is lifted. And that's the first step in creating generational wealth for your family. And I think that as an architect, we help design these places, and we should be responsible with every line that we draw.
So in the mind of regular people, everybody wants to sell and buy houses, and they are very expensive, especially in this area. We are one of the probably most expensive, if not the most, one of the most expensive housing in the United States and in the world. But one thing that surprised me, and correct me if I'm wrong, but to actually purchase land and actually build your home might be cheaper sometimes than actually buy the houses already built. Is that true?
It is.
Okay, so the other, and I don't know if that's a secret. I think people actually think the very opposite is like, I'm not a millionaire. I cannot afford to build a house for myself. So now that we are finding out that it is cheaper to get a house and build it, I mean, where do I start? Where do people start? I mean, I'm guessing that you have to first find financing for the banks and stuff. But then who do I talk to first? To you? Or do I start somewhere else and then I get to you?
So building your house is a team effort. You have to find land. That's the first step. Even having land, and that's something that a lot of people can probably afford with their savings, depending on where you're looking. And finding the right property is just as important as deciding to build or not to build. If you have land that has problems with easements or bad soil, a history of a lien or anything like that, if you don't do your due diligence with your land, you will have made a bad investment. We, as architects, some of us, Tectura provides a service that is a feasibility. I call it the Smart Start program. It's a low-cost commitment to be able to hold your hand. We will look at properties available that are helping you. We sometimes recruit a realtor that specializes in land acquisition, but we do the due diligence of the history and what the land can actually do. Basically, we give you a report that says, this is your box. These are your boundaries, and these are your opportunities. You can put a 3-bedroom house here. It can be this tall. It can look like this. There's an HOA. There's not an HOA. We put this whole package of this is what you can do if you want to build a house. So it's a research-based project. We're not even designing. The first line isn't even drawn, but it is, I think, a good investment opportunity to start looking. And if you have 3 plots of land that you're potentially going to buy, you have an expert, a realtor, an architect, take a look at it and tell you what you can realistically build. before you spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on something that won't work. So we do that as a feasibility. Some architects don't, we do. But it's interesting that you say that a custom home is sometimes cheaper than an old 20-year-old house that you can find in this area, for example, in Virginia. I am doing currently a study exactly that. I'm doing several custom homes and then working with a realtor client to make a comparables so that you can see what the cost association is from a brand spanking new house with medium grade finishes versus what's in the market today that is older, 10, 20 years, might need a new roof, maybe it has too much square footage that you're still buying. But the comparable is the one differentiating factor that I can tell you right now is that time is the big difference in the investment. When you are doing a custom home, we are spending time. It could be 3 months, it could be 6 months that we are all working together to do soil analysis, to create the right design, to pick out finishes, to work with a structural engineer if we have to. All of these people have to come together to make the right building, the right product for the right piece of land. It's a completely tailored experience. So at the end of the day, 6 months later, you're going to get exactly what you want versus.
When you say 6 months, is that the planning phase or the planning phase? And in 6 months, you start building.
Yes.
Okay.
So you have to be patient, and it can be a frustrating process because we do not control what the county decides. Every jurisdiction is different. Everyone has different rules. So the biggest change, the biggest difference between buying a house right now is that in 30 days, if I go with a realtor, I will have a house. I will have a roof. I will have a garage. And I need one in 30 days. A house is a time commitment. You have to be willing as the homeowner to work with the team to get you exactly what you want and be patient, trust the process, and we will get you there. Something that will last you, not only an investment in money, but it's also an investment in time.
Wow. And do you guys, when you choose your client, since you are a tailored experience, do you validate the type of client that you want? Do you take anyone? Do you have to, because I mean, here in Eagle Tech, we do have to validate what type of clients do we want to work with. There is certain minimum requirements that we have to work with some companies. Do you guys have also that for your specific clients?
I think everyone needs to have that because I'm going to drop a Venezuelan saying here. Yo no soy monedita de oro.
Okay.
I am not a gold coin. Everyone doesn't like me. Maybe we don't have a good relationship or rapport working together. That's important. We're going to be best friends for 6 months. We should get along. That's number one. Number two, we have to set realistic expectations and budgets. Our time, if we're going to be also investing 6 months of our lives working on your project, has to be compensated fairly. So a budget is realistic. There's lots of budgets for a lot of different people. And we have a certain caveat where we fit in because we know the level of service that we provide. So that's number two. But really, I think rapport is the first.
Yeah,
we
to
need
have that
to get along.
chemistry with your client. And
almost like dating because we get personal. It is not strange for me to ask a client what their bathroom habits are. It's intimate, and you have to feel comfortable being able to share those things with.
Is that the bathroom thing? Is a distance between the bedroom and the bathroom?
No, part of what I do is also couples therapy. I work with a lot of couples, and we need to hear both sides of the table so that we can come to a happy medium. That's very important. So yeah, it's a little bit of therapy and mixed in there too.
No, I know when the house is, my wife is a real estate broker and agent, and she have to also get the couples agreeing in the house that they want. So what are the non-negotiables in terms of quality, timelines, and trust that you require?
Non-negotiables for quality, timeline, and trust.
And let me give you an example. Like for example, you have certain level of quality, and I say, no, I want to make it cheaper. I want to use this. I mean, I don't need that thing that you're proposing. And that sort of ruined your design. Is that get personal also with architects? Like when you change the stuff and the architect is like, well, I designed this for a reason. Or it's just whatever I want.
That question is very similar to what style of architecture do you like? For example, we get asked that a lot. Some architects are stylistic based. I will only design modern farmhouse. That's it. If you don't like modern farmhouse, I'm not for you. Well, our motto is architecture for humans. We have to put our own stylistic preferences aside because it's not for me. The end product is not mine. It belongs to someone else. So you have to set aside your own bias. And, I'm human too. I try. I will make recommendations, suggestions from my experience, from listening to the market, from colleagues and people who do this also for a living. We have the expertise that's been amassed by our years of study and practice. And it would be a shame for a client to dismiss all of that out of hand because it took us this long to get to where we are to be able to provide a service. But we also have to respect individual preferences. So it's a balancing act.
So you just mentioned the human factor, that you are designing a house for humans, and now we're gonna put in the mix AI. So a lot of firms are using AI, and actually Eagle Tech is teaching and actually implementing AI in some of those firms that are a client of ours. One of the conversations that I have with one of the architects that is a very close client of ours is his concern about AI doing most of the job of entry-level architects. And he was very concerned because he said, well, if AI start replacing entry-level jobs as an architect, how is the new generation of architects start getting experience when there is no job for the entry level? There's job for advanced, and super experienced architects who have years doing it. But the entry level, he fears that AI is going to damage that. And in the future, it's going to be very hard to have an architect with years of experience because he never had the chance to start. And then you and I were talking off cameras and you said that you have a different opinion. So can you share that opinion?
I'm going to take you back to 2008. 2008, there was a huge recession. Recent architectural graduates either lost their jobs or couldn't find their jobs for a few years after the fact. A lot of architects that graduated that year from my college, the Savannah College of Art and Design, pivoted because architecture isn't just about building a building. It's not just about designing something pretty. It's about critical thinking. We have to learn how to problem solve. If I'm going to simplify it as that, we are problem solvers. We have an artistic ability innate with every architect that I've ever met. Whether they be technical or not, there is an artistic aspect to creating the most beautiful, wonderful waterproofing detail because you are communicating an idea to somebody else. And we use drawings for communication. Before I got too into the weeds for that, in 2008, architects couldn't find architecture jobs. No one was building, everyone was firing, everyone was letting go. Architects became product designers. They became engineers. They became graphic designers. They became magazine editors and the gamut. And it goes on and on and on. We pivoted and changed. But now, fast forward to where we are now, there is a certain level of experience of architects that is missing. It is that sweet spot, the middle management area where we are looking for architects basically that graduated that year, and there is none. If you look at architecture or architects hiring, they're always looking for that middle tier that doesn't exist anymore because they exited the profession. So there's already a gap in architects because there was no jobs. So AI coming in and taking the jobs of the entry-level architects is going to do the same thing. This is why I feel really strongly about investing in mentorship opportunities. I've worked with a few colleges in Maryland to give mentorship opportunities. I am part of the AI, which is a branch in DC, the AIADC. I'm also the chair of the Small Firms Exchange. And we're always looking for interns and architects. And we believe very strongly in the mentorship aspect because there is human intelligence that we need to pass along. We use ChatGPT just like everybody else. I'm able to crank out renderings exponentially fast now because I use AI. Those are things that are tools, but the actual critical thinking, in order for a project to really relate to the people that we are serving, has to have some sort of human intelligence. And that is my own personal credo.
And then pivoted from AI to more into technology products. It just came an idea to me. So is those architects that are not getting those entry level jobs for any reason, AI, it probably one of those reasons. Could they pivot into actually designing and creating stuff virtually in those gaming industry that are making millions of dollars, and they can pivot to create stuff inside of those worlds?
Yes.
Is that something that you've seen happening, or it could happen?
Back when I was in school, we had architects that switched majors and went straight into game design, and they designed huge virtual worlds with accurate architecture. If you need Spanish colonial design, just look at the gaming industry. The virtual worlds that are created have to have some sort of architectural understanding in order to make them look realistic. If you've seen the movie Inception, an architect is bending and forming their own reality because they understand how it works, and then they break the rules. I think that goes for anything. If you want to be innovative, you have to understand it before you can break the rules. So same with AI. We have to keep up with it and understand it so that we can use it as a tool, not for it to replace us,
but to enhance what you guys are doing. So that actually leads to my next question: is have you seen, or how you see the technology from back when you started until now evolve? What tools you found that have actually improved your job? What technology tools actually make your life harder? Because that also happened. And what do you see for the near future that it will be a great improvement in the architecture world?
I'm going to age myself now. When I graduated, the industry was still using AutoCAD, which is a line-based flat D program. So we had to think of every aspect of the building as flatland. Then it evolved into BIM, which it stands for Building Information Modeling. Every component in BIM has information associated with it. So now we're not designing flat drawings anymore. We're designing 3D at the same time. So when I draw a wall, this wall has thickness. It has an insulation value. It has an exterior material. I know what it's going to look like because it's all one sandwich, and it has information associated with that wall. I can click that wall and I can tell you how big it is, how much square footage, how much material it has. So there's already so much information in this tool, from flat lines to an overwhelming amount of information, that I think that even today, I still don't have a full grasp on the power that this tool has. I think it takes BIM specialists to really harness this power of this tool.
And is this a new application? Well, I don't think it's new, but it's newer than AutoCAD. Can you build stuff, and if they don't meet the certain criteria, can you see the house collapse because you sent it bad, or it won't let you do that? Will you give you warnings about don't put this wall here because the structure might be compromised, or is that?
There are programs that can model an earthquake,
Okay.
and they will tell you where the weak points are so that you can strengthen it. There are models that you can put your 3D design in that will show you the wind tunnel effect. So if you have two buildings side by side, what happens in this area when the wind blows through them, if it speeds up and creates a wind tunnel? It's, like I said, the capabilities are, if we think AI is limitless, there's so much that we already have before we even bring in AI to the conversation.
So, what things we bring AI for? Because I think architecture has been one of the fields that have advanced a lot through many years. I remember in 1998, I was part of the support group of an architecture firm in Caracas, Venezuela, and they all used AutoCAD back then, and it was very complex and very advanced. Obviously, like the computers were huge back then. So, I mean, from 1998 to now, I'm guessing that the advancement on all those software has been tremendous. So, as you mentioned, now we have AI on top of those tools. So, what is AI doing that cannot be done before?
Don't quote me. I don't think that AI is doing anything yet that hasn't already been done in the architecture history. What it is doing is making the process faster.
Okay.
It is allowing us to iterate design. So I have a project, but I want to see 7 different versions. And I can use AI to crank out 7 different versions in a day versus it taking me 3 days to do one by one by one. That is the speed that we're moving in right now. So it's helping us by giving us speed. It's helping us by giving us more options. It's helping us not start from zero. Sometimes a blank canvas as an artist is the scariest thing that can happen.
Yeah.
AI, I like to think of AI as giving me a starting point, and then I know my own judgment, my own style, I know proportions. I don't think AI is quite there yet. As much as it can do, it cannot think with the experience that we have, again, interpersonal skills. So we have to still guide it, and I think that's okay. I don't want to relinquish complete control of design to a machine.
No, definitely. I mean, if we give you many examples of AI just telling you the wrong information,
Yeah, that happens
so
a lot.
it happens a lot.
There's a couple architects got sued for thinking that AI or ChatGPT was giving them the right answer, and they didn't do their due diligence. You have to still maintain control. Otherwise, what's your purpose?
No, exactly. And well, unfortunately, there's a lot of people in all fields that is taking AI as the authority.
Yeah.
Instead of the tool and the help, now it becomes an authority. And I think that's the biggest mistake. And that's what we're trying to tell our clients too. Is like, I'm going to teach you how to use this tool, but don't ever think that this is the ultimate authority, because it's not. And I don't think it's going to ever be. It shouldn't be, because I mean, that's why we're here, to actually.
I was gonna say, like the invention of any technology, people are scared because it's going to supplant other people. The invention of the calculator and making it available to the masses means now I don't need to know math. Well, you still have to know what it is that you're doing. You can use the calculator as a tool, but it shouldn't do all the thinking for you, because if you get the wrong answer, even though the calculator spat it out, if you didn't give it the right equation, you're always going to have the right answer or the wrong answer.
Yeah, and you lose the capacity to logically ask the right questions if you leave all the thinking to the AI. So I'm pivoting to another area, cybersecurity in the architecture firms. What would be a potential threat to your business or any firm business of the data that you manage being stolen or exposed? Is that a risk? Do you feel that you have some data in your company that cannot be stolen by a hacker and expose it to the internet? Or you guys think that all your designs are not as critical to safeguard? What is the thinking in terms of to get into a mind of an architect? What is important for you to protect?
Definitely. We have to maintain records because we, as licensed architects, when we stamp a drawing, depending on your jurisdiction, we are responsible for that design for a certain amount of years after it's been permitted and built. People may be living in it, but if there's still a problem with the design of the building and someone flags it, there's potential for lawsuits, as we are a profession. It's not a draftsman. It's not just a pretty picture. It's something that was engineered. So it is important that we maintain accurate records. And if those records were to be lost, we would find ourselves in hot water. Not only that, but we Within my small firms exchange group for the AIA, we're always talking about how we still find issues with our drawings being displayed to the public and stolen. If I
Oh, really?
design a house for you, a building for someone could take that house and say, well, I'm just going to do this house on my land. The exact same house, I'm just going to copy it. There's nothing technically wrong with that, but it's considered stolen because the second person who took your house design is taking something that was designed for you specifically. It's not something that we can just hand out like candy.
Yeah.
There's so many things that we went through our 6 months working together. We looked at your specific land. The foundation was designed for those specific soils. It may not work on land number 2 for Joe, but because my stamp's on there, Joe is building on things that he didn't purchase. And then he could say, well, there's a problem with my land. These are the stamped drawings. I'm going to sue the architect. A lot of that stuff is a potential.
Potential.
Those things.
And then losing all the drawings to a ransomware attack will also be a
Yes, because what do we do if we have 6 months worth of work that we can't get back? What do we give to this client? We have to start over again. It's not like, well, we have backup servers, but what if those are in ransomware? What do? We have to return our fees, and we just wasted 6 months of time, and we could be held liable again because
yeah.
we're in breach of contract. So yes.
Is do you guys have to follow any federal or state regulation in terms of data? For example, hospitals or medical facilities, they have to follow HIPAA compliance. The people who do credit card have to do PCI compliance. Does the architect world have a compliance that you have to follow?
Not necessarily for architects to my knowledge, but it does depend on who your client is. For example, if you're working for the federal government, there are regulations there that have to be complied with. There is also medical facilities. I'm working on a chiropractic office right now, and we have to obey HIPAA as well, HIPAA.
Okay, that actually, the chiropractor thing brought another question. So did you also do designs for renovating buildings in the inside that already are built? They want to change things around?
Yeah. So
Houses too, or just business builders? Everything.
well, we try not to do everything because then we're just a jack of all trades, master of none. We started with residential because that was first and foremost what my career was based off of. I started designing buildings in Washington, D.C., apartments that take up a whole block, and lots of apartments, triplexes, tiny living, any kind of housing type I probably worked on. So residential is probably my specialty. We have been taking on clients that do tenant fit outs, so office conversions and offices. So taking the shell of an existing building and retrofitting it for a new user. That's something that we've also done. So that's our new branch that we're working on right now.
I want to address this before we end up the podcast. Tell me about how was the process of starting your company, but not from the moment that you started it. I want you to go back all the way to where you come from and how that helped you to be where you are right now.
Sure. As a child in Venezuela, I saw my mom build her dream house. It was a lot of blood, sweat, and tears and sacrifice and years. It took years because it wasn't financing. My parents paid for it out of their pocket. And we saw everything come up. We saw the foundation. We saw building a well, digging it. And then we saw when they've put the final shingle on the roof. That had a pretty big impact because not only was it just a house, it was a special house in my tiny hometown of Anaco, Estado Anzoátegui. It had a blue roof. There are no houses with blue roofs in Venezuela that I know of, not in my town. So it became an icon for the town. Everyone knew the house with the blue roof, and you could see it from miles away. People would know me and recognize me because of my house. So yeah, it became something that was iconic even in my own little town. And I took that with me because we lived that. I played with concrete. Don't tell my mother that. So yeah, it was part of my growing up, and it was nice to be able to see that as a child. And now I see it a lot when I see the projects that I'm working on come to fruition. So it's something that's always been there for me.
And then how you decided to actually become a business owner?
Think it was never one of my intentions. And I know it's going against everything everyone tells you. But I was quite content with the kind of work that I was doing and the people that I was working with. I loved my coworkers, my bosses. It was pretty great. COVID hit. COVID made it impossible to be a working mother. It really meant a lot of sacrifices for our family, deciding how we were going to work, creating a schedule, and 2 young children under the age of 5 was such an enormous challenge that I had to take time off of work to figure out how we were going to make it work as a family. I did not want to give up my profession. I also did not want to sacrifice my family life. And I knew that in order for me to make this work, I had to figure out and architect my own way out of it. So that's how I decided that I was going to take a risk. I have a wonderful, supportive husband who was there for me. And while he was there for me, he gave me the distance to help me, to let me figure it out by myself, which was wonderful because he is also an architect.
Okay, interesting.
So that's how I got into business ownership. And I love the freedom that it gives me to make mistakes and try again and create my own rules. It's scary. At times, there's so much work. It's true that you live to work, but at the end of the day, I started from nothing. And now I've got something. I've got 1 full-time employee, 1 part-time employee. We've got wonderful clients throughout the DMV, and I wouldn't have it any other way.
So as a small business owner, what are your biggest fear in terms of technology?
Fear that our clients are not educated, especially with AI. They're relying a lot on what they're being told is the right thing to do, which may not be in their best interest because I think AI likes to tell you what you want to hear and
Yeah.
not the hard truths. So it's not unusual for a potential client to come in thinking they know everything, and then I have to break down their assumptions and start from zero. It's not always a pleasant conversation because no one likes to be told you're wrong, especially when we are potentially thinking about a new job. My fear is that the generalization of knowledge, which that's what the internet is for, everyone can search something and find out and become an expert in 5 minutes. I fear that people will not listen because they will already consider themselves with a glass already full. I think part of my job is to help educate clients, and that goes back to mentorship. Educate young architects, aspiring architects. Start from zero, be humble, show humility, and start with a glass empty so that you can see who is going to be filling your cup.
I think this hour has been amazing. A lot of things that I have learned. So, I mean, Andrea, I want to thank you for being in the program, and I hope that this is not the last time. Maybe we can address something other more deep into the architecture and get very geek into what the architecture world looks like. But thank you very much. I want to say our listeners subscribe and share all the time. That will help us a lot. Until the next time. Thank you very much for those that are watching us, since we are doing this podcast and it's fairly new. Subscribing, liking, and sharing is greatly appreciated. And until the next time, thank you.